All right, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Save the Track Bike, presented by Hexagon Cycles. That's hexagoncycles.com. On today's episode, it's a really exciting one. I have Evan Murphy from MASH SF. We talk about Red Hook, we talk about Mission, we talk about how he got involved with MASH. We talk about the upcoming Bone Machine. And speaking of Bone Machine, stick around at the end because we have a short conversation with Ernesto, the founder of Bone Machine. And yeah, we have a little preview of the race. So without further ado, let's just get into it.
I'm Evan Murphy. And the most relevant thing to this podcast is I race track bikes for MASH SF. Only really fixed gear criterions. I don't really do the Alicat thing anymore, but yeah.
So how did you get into?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. So how did you get into cycling? What's your history with that?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that my brother and Walton Brush, my brother's Kyle Murphy, and Walton Brush, who most people probably know also from MASH, we all went to high school together in Portland, Oregon. And my brother's younger than me, and him and Walton started racing bikes in Portland, like Alley Cats, at the Velodrome, at Alpenrose, Mount Tabor series on road bikes. And I was in college and I was really inspired. So that's when I started racing. But when I was in high school, the track bike kind of craze had just hit Portland, and I think I begged my parents for a Bianchi Pista one Christmas. So I had been kind of riding bikes, but racing for me really started in college. I was in art school on the East Coast, and I started racing collegiate road racing, and then actually before that I would do Alley Cats in Providence, Rhode Island, which is kind of this small city, but it had a really healthy Alley Cat scene, actually. Couple pretty key players kind of got me into it. Donnie Green, and this other guy, what's his name? Oh man, it's a long time ago now, but Donnie Green really stands out in my mind. He kind of got me introduced to the scene, and we were racing Alley Cats. Anyways, that was a long-winded way to say the big motivator was Kyle and Walton, and then it just snowballs. Everyone has this experience where you kind of dip your toes in, and I feel like people are either this is not for me. Some people are it's too competitive, or I don't like this skin tight clothing, or it's too expensive, or whatever, and it's not for them. And if it's for you, and it's you just dive in. I see it all the time, and then it's just from there on you're just obsessed. I could be generalizing here, but that was my experience, and I know a lot of people have had similar experiences.
So how did MASH come about?
Man, the history kind of goes back in many different ways. But again, it's so related to Walton and Kyle for me. Walton was involved in MASH. He went on this Tour of California trip that's kind of notorious if you know about it, where the MASH crew at the time, which was Garrett Shaw, Blake Van Nopka, another guy, I can't remember who, Rainier was there, Walton, they did the Tour of California route behind the race on track bikes. So they did 100-mile days through the mountains of California on track bikes. And that's a tangent. The point being, Walton was kind of the gateway for Kyle and I, and a lot of people really. Anyone who's met Walton, he's so charismatic, and enthusiastic, it's hard not to like get swept up in it. And so when Red Hook started to become like a serious thing and MASH finally kind of started racing, I met all of those guys because Kyle was on the team, which like makes it sound like it's a team, but it's really just a group of friends. Basically being like, you know, led around by Mike Martin, who also anyone who's had the chance to meet is just a really wonderful person. And so like meeting them, it was always like I wasn't racing for MASH. It wasn't really clear why I was racing with Stanridge. I mean, it was great. Adam's great. Stanridge is an awesome bicycle brand. But Mike was like, dude, your brother's on this team. We're all friends. Like we were like literally traveling. I was doing everything at Red Hooks with MASH, but not racing for them. So that's kind of, it was like, for me, it was like my brother, tons of friends. And it was just like, this just makes sense. And I've just been so fortunate because, you know, I've never lived in San Francisco, which people think I have because I represent MASH in fixed gear crits. You know, I've been lucky enough to get out and film for the 10-year video. And I just feel really lucky to represent Mike's brand and all the work Chaz does, and people in the past who've done a lot of input into, you know, what that brand visually looks like and the products that they make. I really believe in them. And I think they've certainly pushed track bike culture forward. And I really think they've pushed, you know, they've been an integral part to the Red Hook Crit success. So it's just really awesome, man. It's just like, that's how it came about. You know, I just met the guys and Kyle's on the team, and, yeah. And from there, it's just been just really good vibes and low pressure. We're not like, we're not going to win. We don't have to win. We don't have to get results. We're just out there to, like, you know, make the best of it. And that's really special too. I think that's pretty rare.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to see, because I still remember when like the first MASH videos were coming out, like way back in the day. And like, I remember me and all my friends like sitting around watching on early YouTube of MASH riding with like Lance Armstrong and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just been such an integral part of the culture that, yeah, it does seem like something really special. And I was like really stoked to see you up there at Red Hook in the top 5. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? This year's Red Hook and what that experience was like? Because it seemed wild.
Yeah. It was. That's a good word. Yeah, I feel like it was, what do I want to say? I guess like, it rained. That's the sentence. It rained right at the end. And that changed the dynamic of the racing 180 degrees. And anyone who has participated in Red Hook Crit long enough, raced in the edition, I want to say, was it like 2014 or something, when it rained like the whole day in Brooklyn. I bet like anyone who did that race can tell you like that's the day I learned how to ride a track bike in the rain. And like I've commuted, I've like, you know, whatever, you can say a million things, but like that was the day I learned like, okay, this is how you slow down. This is how to trust your bike. This is how to trust your tires. Like, you know, here I learned so much in that day, and I was really grateful for that experience, because it was so awesome. The rain started to fall, and guys who were at the front of the race literally were dropping like flies. I mean, it was crazy. I don't want to like name call anybody, but there were guys pulling chute, and immediately as soon as the rain started to fall. And then there were other guys who I can name drop, like Brian, like Safa, who shoots to the front, like, where'd you even come from? And is like chopping it up. And I think, the cream really rose to the top, and that was super cool because I felt like I was one of the guys again, which I haven't felt like in a while. I felt like, experience on a track bike really kind of showed itself, which was refreshing because I feel like the last couple of years it sort of felt like super strong guys who have decent bike handling and have like spent a year practicing track bikes were just like dominating. So it was like really cool to see, the guys who really put in the work up at the front, mixing it up. That being said, I think Justin Williams was unbelievable. And like, I love to hate Specialized because they're like the Yankees of Red Hook crit. I mean, I like those guys individually. And like, I'm not like angry at any of the racers, but like, and I don't care about talking shit, but like Specialized thinks they can come in and like own a piece of this, like, guys, it's just like, ugh, whatever. But Justin Williams' ride was unbelievable. He has come so far in the Red Hook crit, fixed gear crit scene. I mean, he was a non-factor for several years now. People like to talk about him now as if he was always good, but he came to Barcelona and got his butt kicked. I mean, he was like, I don't know if you're aware, but like, he did not have a good race. And, for a couple of years there, he was kind of trying it out, and it's like, so to see him progress was really impressive.
Yeah, I know when I had Gabe and David on before Red Hook, and I don't remember if David actually said this. Oh, I think he did. Anyway, I know Gabe talked about it for sure, about Justin kind of like a lot of times he would seemingly forget how short the race is, and he would be waiting the whole time and then be like way in the back. And I remember we talked about that before. So seeing Justin kind of up in the front and almost take it was really interesting because it was like, 4 days before having that conversation about exactly what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. And there was, it was, similarly, I guess also why I bring him up is because like he was still racing aggressively when the rain started falling. And that was the tone that changed. Was like, I really felt like there were like 4 or 5 guys in the front who were like still racing. And then it really felt like the rest of everybody else was just like scared shitless. And so that was like the way that the tone changed there too, was like, you could really tell who was confident, who had the ability and the guts, but also the skill really. And I think he had it. 14, or however you say his name, is it 14 or 14?
14, yeah.
14?
Yeah.
He's like heads above, and he's good at riding track bikes. And it's like, okay, well, he's like the star of the show right now. He's incredible. But yeah, it was exciting. The ending was, the last 3 laps were like crazy. They were a blur. But that was the race,
Yeah, it was rad to see like you and Safa up there, and just like, yeah, it was really exciting. I love seeing Mash up in the top 5. So
yeah, me too.
Right? Because it is that history, and it is interesting to see like Specialized with such a big team. It's just crazy to see. Do you think that maybe the course being like less technical had something to do with that?
Yeah, I rode that course in the qualifier. I looked at the course and I was like, wow, I don't think this is a very good course. And then I rode the course in the qualifier, and I said to anyone who would listen, this is going to be a field sprint. And the conspiracy theory part of my brain was like, oh my God, they made a course specifically for Specialized as sprint train. No. But yeah, the course. Okay. So, and let's clarify, because in my opinion, that was a very technical course in that it had a lot of corners. I think what you're referring to when you say technical is like there's no hairpin.
Yeah, there's none of the you really need to know how to slow your bike down a lot and get back up to speed kind of situation.
And actually, the first corner was the most difficult corner in my opinion. I wonder if anyone else would agree with me, but you came in with so much speed into that corner, and it didn't optically look it didn't look sharp. But the potential to enter that corner with too much speed was very high. And also, actually, I think I might be onto something, because that was where a lot of the crashes were as well. But the kind of the teardrop or hairpin, for lack of a better word, like you're saying, you didn't have to slow down. I mean, you kind of did, but you pretty much railed that corner. And I think I really think that's part of what's previously so hard about Red Hook courses, is that you come to a complete standstill and then you accelerate from like a standstill back up to speed, and that stretching of the elastic is what shatters the field normally, and that wasn't there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it's a good course. It's a safer course. I ended up enjoying it. I was so glad it rained. But yeah, it was kind of like, oh, it's a really easy course of control. One of the things was you did first corner, and basically upon the exit of first corner, it wasn't obvious as a spectator, but you were basically recovering from that corner all through the S turns until you exited back onto the long straightaway. So that whole section, there was basically no power output, because it was such tight corners and they were all back to back. You really weren't going hard through there. So even if you got a gap of 6 seconds or something and you're going berserk, you can't really go that fast through that section. And I think that also kind of contributed to keeping the fields more or less together. So it's an interesting course, but yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to get the perspective from the people that were actually there, because I was basically just sitting at home watching on Instagram. So you can only surmise so much information from that. So it's really good. It's really cool to get your perspective. But what is your history with Red Hook? How many have you done now, or when was your first one?
So I'm gonna get the years wrong.
That's cool. I'm terrible with years and stuff, so. Okay,
cool. So the first 3 times Red Hook Crit happened, it was on city streets in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then the 4th year, it moved into the now iconic terminal. So the last year it was on the streets was the 3rd year it happened. Right? I'm getting this right, aren't I? I hope I'm getting this right.
I think so.
Yeah.
It sounds right.
That was the first. Yeah.
If anybody listening knows, just email me.
Well, the only thing I'm thinking is maybe it was 4 years on city streets and then it moved over to the terminal. But either way, I did the last one that was still on city streets.
Okay.
And that was my first Red Hook. And I hadn't even done... I think I had done 2 collegiate road races. I'd done some alley cats, took the bus down from school and raced. And back in the day, Trimble had it you actually had free laps, like a normal criterion. So I actually flatted a rear wheel. There was this crazy pothole on the course, flatted my rear wheel, went into the pit, changed it, got back on course in my group. And at point, it was like it had been whittled down to like 4 riders. It was like Neil, Dan, and like Catel, or whoever the good guys were at that time. And I was like dangling off the back. And I'll tell you what, I've never been able to publicly talk about this, but I have so much. I was so bummed because Lucas Brunel, who's that famous dude who films track bike guys with his like helmet camera.
Yes.
He was following the race on his road bike, and he got in between the group and me after my free lap and bunny hopped the same pothole that I had flatted in earlier, and I went in and double flatted and was out of the race. No. So it was a trial by fire. And I had a ton of bad luck. I didn't know anyone in the scene. I basically, like, everyone started partying, and I just, like, you know, went home. But then I was totally hooked. I thought it was so cool. Came the next year, broke a chain, and then the following year, so I broke a chain the next year. I was racing for, like, the local team I was racing for in New York City. And then following year, broke a chain. So nothing to speak of. Still, no one gives a fuck. And then the next year, like, nothing broke, and I think I got third or second. I think I got third behind like Rainier and Dan, and then man, I can't really keep a track, but that feels right. And then that's when Trimble was like, you got to go to Milan, and Stanridge was like, hey, let me send you a bike. And then that's when kind of like I started getting supported, and it was like, oh, this is rad. I'm gonna do these events as long as I can. And actually, I took a break from it for a little while when I was road racing professionally. But yeah, it's the 11th year. I think I've done, at least 15 events worldwide. That seems right. That might be less.
Yeah, what were some of your favorite memories from Red Hooks you've done?
Such a good question.
Because then the years don't matter. You don't even have to tell me.
Yeah, thank you. Right. It's kind of been mentioned a lot, but the first year I did Milan, I crashed Neil Bezdek out on the first lap, and he was like, at that time, he was like the king of Red Hook, and definitely I should not have done that. It was a total noob move, rookie mistake. And then my bike was okay, his was messed up. I got back, jumped up on my bike, got back in the race, and then I won the race. That's the only Red Hook I've actually ever won, and that was really awesome. I had a lot of good luck. That stands out big time, and Neil's become a good friend and has really helped me in my bike racing career. And he introduced me to my girlfriend, and so it's all good. But that's a big cherished memory, often told story. And then I think another thing that stands out was Barcelona. Who knows what year? I wasn't yet on MASH, and Kyle got on the podium, and I got on the podium, and that was when Dave Trimble was doing 5 people on the podium at once. He's now moved it to 3, which I really support. Dave, if you're listening, I think that was a good move, back to 3. But nonetheless, it was so fun to stand up there with my brother. That was a really special moment. And another, let's see, what other, there's like these tiny little vignettes, like the first time Stefan viz the Fish, most people know him as Fish. The first time he like really came and like smashed a Red Hook in Brooklyn, I remember being so flabbergasted at how aggressive he was racing. I told Trimble he should be like kicked out of the race. I thought he was like irresponsible. He almost killed me. And like, I've since learned that like he was just like throwing an elbow, like and I've since learned like what he was doing was like fair game from his world. That's like a funny moment when I think back. Another one is, I think, there's all these amazing friend moments, all these people I've met, all of these like incredible experiences I've had just like in these foreign cities and in New York City. But like to keep it in racing, I'd say like another one is, the year Red Hook Crit was rain soaked. That was otherworldly, just so much anxiety. That was, that was a really hard year. Shane Farrow, a good friend, she punctured a lung in a crash. This random French guy came and schooled us all. You couldn't see the whole race. You basically just were like, you couldn't wear glasses. I couldn't wear glasses. So it was just kind of like, you couldn't get a draft because you were always like riding a little bit off the wheel. So you weren't getting like smashed in the face with rain. What was a cool experience was one year, last year, when I did Barcelona, I qualified for Super Pole, and that doesn't happen anymore. It was kind of dumb, and it's a good thing it doesn't happen, but that was a cool experience. It was really weird, and it was unique because the crowd was like so ready for the race. It happened like it would happen like right before the women's race or something like this. And it was like 10 people doing an individual time trial once around the course. And it was a cool experience. It was a lot of anxiety. I didn't do well, but it was really cool. That was really fun. That stands out. Yeah, man, there's so many, each race you can think of something cool.
No, for sure. What races outside of Red Hook have you done, and as far as like fixed gear crits, and what are some of the highlights of those events as well, or just highlighting the event in general?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this year was my first year doing mission crit, and I loved it. And anyone who wants to do fixed gear crits should definitely attend. I think it's great. It's a premier fixed gear event, and the crowds are amazing, and the course is extraordinarily difficult. Honestly, I have not taken part in many other fixed gear crits besides Red Hook Crit. It really, when it was 4 events a year, or 3 events a year, it soaked up. It was enough pressure and preparation to just do those, for me at least, especially with road racing and cyclocross on top of it. But yeah, we've got a weekly fixed gear crit series, believe it or not, in Portland. That's really fun. It's usually like 10 of us line up. Most of them are track racers. It's on a motor, like a car racing track. So yeah, I gotta say, for me, it's really been Red Hook, and I think everybody owes Dave a real thank you for like providing that platform, because it was enough for me.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Mission Crit a little more.
Cool.
Yeah, that race, I watched the live stream of that one, and it just seemed flat out from the gun. And I would love to get your perspective on how that race was and your experience at it. And I'm looking at the results right now because I forgot where you were, and you're at 5th place. So top 5 again. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that race.
Yeah. So, again, like anybody listening out there if I get this wrong, I'm sorry, but I believe that the race started like in a parking lot, and then it like moved out onto the city streets. And to the best of my knowledge, the course hasn't really changed, but I could be totally wrong.
No, you're right, because I was talking to James, and since they're actually closing off streets, it's really hard for them to change the course up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. So, to that end, it's to me, the race it's still on city streets, which Red Hook in the U.S. is not. In Milan, it's on city streets. In Barcelona, it's not. And I don't know about London because I've never done London. But yeah, it's on city streets. It's like open to the public. It's extraordinarily gritty because it's on city streets. And then it's got two hairpins, one after the other. And then it's got like a downhill chicane that I found very, very challenging. And then it's got this drag strip section that goes into the last corner of the race. And the last corner of the race is like a hairpin. It's a large hairpin, but it's definitely a hairpin. And there's a huge straightaway going into it. And so the race happens on this straightaway. And it's very exciting because it's also the darkest part of the course. I think like in the future, as that race grows, I feel like getting spectators out to that area, or as the live stream progresses, lighting that part of the course up and really highlighting it. Like tactically, that was the most important part of the course, and it was the most interesting from a racer's perspective part of the course, because it's really the only place you could move up in position, and it was like the best place, especially if you're a rider like me, to like really kind of like do something in terms of attacking. Yeah, the race this year was really frustrating. Specialized brought everybody but Alec Briggs, and they were riding like so well. And it's like, it's got a lot of the same people from like the regular Red Hook Crit series, but not quite as many, there's like not really that many Europeans. So like nobody was really like, I think everybody was kind of like ready to let Specialized do their thing. And then like, I had this like weird, like adopted child need to like prove myself in front of like San Franciscans, and I just like chased everything. Like I could hear, like my coach Ariel was like, he lives in San Francisco, and he's like on the side. I could hear him being like, "Stop chasing them down." It was like, okay, I'm not racing smart. So yeah, I mean, they put me on the ropes. Like I think I wouldn't say I was the only one racing in Specialized. I think a couple of the Amaton guys really, really put in some digs, and there were a couple guys from Heavy Pedal who kind of like helped me chase. But pretty much like, yeah, I would, if I went with a Specialized guy, they wouldn't work. And then they would like, they were so smart. They would, so just before the chicane, there's a straightaway of about like maybe 75 meters. And they would like stack all their guys at the front through that section. One of them would attack, and then they'd go like too wide next to each other into the chicane. So a couple times I like literally couldn't chase the rider who had attacked like through the chicane. And so that's like an automatic, 5-6 second gap, which is an eternity in a fixed gear crit. So like stuff like that, where it was just like, they were using their numbers against everybody. They were racing super smart. Their guys are really strong. So I was frustrated, but then I realized like, wait, that's cool. I'm just going to chase him down. I'm going to chase him down all night. I'll be on the front all night. That's fine. Like who cares? And I'll still sprint at the end. I think it would have been cool if I'd gotten better than fifth, but yeah, it was a definite, I think I was like, wow, oh, that's what, I was getting kind of like bummed. I was like, oh, that's what Red Hook's going to be like. And I was like, no, wait, we're going to go to Red Hook. There's going to be a bunch of these crazy psycho Europeans. It's going to be a different race. And it was, thankfully. But yeah, they controlled the race. And that really, as far as racing goes, that really defined it for me, was like feeling like I want to get away with one of these specialized guys. It's not really happening. No one else was really going to chase. So I was chasing and then like countering my chase. And it was just like, I was being dumb. I was not racing smart. But all things considered, like, had a great experience. And it was cool that James did a 5-person podium, because I got to spray champagne on all of those guys. And it was just fun, man. Like, anybody who's got a chance to go to that race, I'd really recommend it, because it just feels like a street party. And even if you didn't race, you just have a blast. There's like good food all over the place. It's just a fun vibe. I mean, it's just great. It's a party.
So what are your plans next? Like, what races are you planning on doing next?
Yeah, in terms of fixed gear crits, I'm going to be doing Bone Machine crit. It's here in Portland. I live in Portland now. Portland, I think a lot of people see it as a bit of an epicenter for some of the fixed gear. At least back in the day, the kind of messenger fixed gear growth, some of it came from here. So it's cool that there's, now a race kind of sinking its teeth into the scene. And so that's for fixed gear racing, that's kind of the next one on deck. I'm hoping that, the U.S. calendar is kind of not super saturated in terms of fixed gear crit events. I'm hoping we can get some people out here. And then, other than that, I got some road races on deck. I'll race some cross later in the fall, but at least coming up soon, that's July 8th is Bone Machine crit. So that's kind of my next track bike target.
Let's talk about the bike that you're riding now, because you have that.
Oh yeah,
you have that new MASH track bike that's about to drop.
Yeah, that bike is sick. I mean, it's so interesting, when you really know the history of what MASH has done with bike design. I think a lot of people think that it was Cinelli MASH, but really it was MASH Cinelli. All the geometries, all the tube selection, everything came from Chaz, Mike, Walton. All the rider input on how aggressive they were going to make the parallax. All of that came from these guys in San Francisco. And I think if you understand that, it kind of makes sense, like where, the new bike, I mean, I haven't ridden the MASH work frame yet, the steel frame, but this aluminum bike is like a true racing bike, and it takes a lot of the work that Chaz and Walton did on the parallax, and it just improved it. It's slight improvements to the geometry. It's definitely, in my opinion, it's easier to ride. I mean, I don't know how many geometry nerds are going to listen to the podcast, but it's just a little bit slacker head rake. And I think the wheelbase is a little bit longer. But then the major kind of tech improvement is that the frame is like, I don't know how much lighter, but it's significantly lighter. It's a different tube. It's a custom tube set. It's way stiffer. And then the fork is like a custom fork. Pretty sure Al Nelson designed the fork shape. And then that's a full carbon fork. So, you can see a lot of full carbon forks. Like, you can buy one from Envy and put it on your steel bike. But, this one's like made from scratch, which is really unique. And I think the bike So as far as like a racer, I'm ecstatic. It's better in every way. And then I think what's probably my favorite thing about it as like a bike nerd is that, you know, like MASH has really kind of stuck with this aesthetic of like, this is like a tool for riding in the city as fast as you can. And it's like a simple tool that you can like take around the world and race. So like, I really appreciate that it's got like a more kind of like classic look as far as like the tube shapes go. I feel like the trend right now is to build these like gigantic down tube kind of road bike knockoff kind of looking things, or time trial bike kind of things. And it's like, yeah, it's cool your bike looks like a motorcycle, but like, you know, I dig that the MASH bike is a little more classy, and I think it'll really kind of, you know, like that's an aesthetic you can ride for a couple of years and not, you know, not feel self-conscious when you're like in your 40s, you know, riding your kids to the park. So, yeah, I think it looks great. And the graphics Al did, they're like have you seen the bike? It's like, it's called Gamma. It's like, I just think it's great. It's like, yeah, gray on black. It's just like, I can't get enough of it. But yeah, it's great. I think, it's not like a giant leap forward, but you know, like I said at the beginning of this rant, if you understand the input MASH made into the Parallax, which was 100% MASH, and you understand how many times that geometry and style of bike has been ripped off, then you understand this is like a further progression of that project by those guys. You know, I have no input on the geometry. I couldn't even tell you how to change it to make it better. I'm really lucky that Walton, Chaz, and Mike are so good at that. But yeah, you know, I think seeing it as like a progression from MASH, it's exciting that it's like, it's only getting better.
Yeah. It just seems like to me that it's cool that it's MASH. Cause I'm with you that I never really saw the MASH Chinelli bikes as like, I never thought that the guys at Chinelli would be like, hey, you know what a track bike needs to do? It needs to be able to fit giant tires. And and so people can do track-low cross, you know?
Right.
And stuff like that. Yeah, I just think that's funny. But so what are you listening to while you're training right now?
Man, that's a good question. I listen to like it's probably like music for 14-year-olds. Like it's like electronic, like Diplo stuff where it's like there's like a girl singing and she's been auto-tuned, and then there's like a dance beat behind it. Like that's like my you know, my guilty pleasure when I'm training. I can ride so fast to like Sia or I honestly don't know the names of these people, but like I think you know what I'm talking about. Like, It's embarrassing to say, but yeah, like hype dance music for 14-year-olds. That's my jam for training. Yeah. I listen to better music when I'm not training, but when I'm training, man, I can't get enough of that stuff.
For sure. Cool. So I think this is a good place to end it. Is there anything else you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, man. Thanks for getting the podcast going and like keeping people informed and giving us weirdos a voice, and keep doing what you're doing, man. They're really fun to listen to, and it's important work you're doing. So keep it up, man.
Cool. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, if it's Red Hook season and I've done my work right, then mashsf.com. Michael usually posts some words I've written or some photos. And then if you're on Instagram, my Instagram a lot of people don't know, it's RUALRITE, and it's Are You All Right? It's not rural or rural. It's Are You All Right? So you can find me at Are You All Right?
That's awesome. Thanks.
And I don't have a website. I don't have a website or anything. I got no personal brand. Sorry to say, I missed that boat, but I love putting stuff on Instagram. So
yeah, I think that Instagram has been like an amazing tool for this podcast.
Yeah, and an amazing tool for small communities. It's beautiful. It's still one of the more beautiful places on the internet. Fortunately, I love it. But it's also addictive, so I try to take breaks. But yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I just did that over the weekend. But cool, Evan. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Josh.
Yeah, that's it's Ernesto from Bone Machine. I'm the organizer and founder of Bone Machine.
Nice. So tell me how Bone Machine came together and the history of the race and how you got involved.
Okay, well, I think everything started when I started working with liter bikes, and I got hooked on the fixed gear racing scene, if you can call it like that. And Patrick from Pedal Consumption, that's the one that he put me in contact with leaders. So I started working with them and realized that it was kind of like a small world. Everybody knew everybody, or you knew someone that knew someone that was into racing crits. And I've been promoting events, mostly rock bands, since 2000. And that's because I like music a lot. And then when I got hooked on into racing at the velodrome, mostly in Portland, then I started seeing Red Hook and all these races, and realized that I have enough contacts to have like a good race in Portland. I realized that I checked and saw that in all the West Coast, the closest race to Portland was in San Francisco, which was Mission Creek. So there was no races in Oregon, in Washington, or even in Canada. And yeah, that's when I thought about, like, why not organize a crit here in Portland? And that's what gave me the idea.
Yeah, so the last one was in 2016, correct?
Yeah, that was the first one. And yeah, the last one, we didn't do anything on 2017, but we partnered with Clive, who helped, they're helping a lot to bring promotion and a lot of know-how. Yeah, that's we're bringing back the race in this year.
Nice. What are some your favorite stories from the day from 2016?
I guess, yeah, my favorite would be Addison Sawada not tying up his rear wheel and crossing the line in qualifications running, and he started last and he won the race. I think that was my favorite story, or probably most of people that attended to Bone Machine. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so he ended up running. You said?
Yeah, he
Oh,
crossed the
man.
line. He crossed the line on the qualifications because he forgot to tighten the rear wheel,
Oh, no.
and the rear wheel slipped on, and he crossed the line running with the bike on his shoulder, and for that reason he started last, but won the race.
Dang.
It was really cool.
That's crazy. Yeah, so talk a little bit about what 2018 looks like and what like the course looks like and what people can expect.
SAFA has a lot of expertise, as everybody knows, in racing and also promoting races. So he's doing little changes on the course, differently as the 2016 course. It's going to be pretty technical, but there's like some changes. It's going to be pretty much the same, but we're making some changes. That's for the course and for the whole event this year. That's why we waited one more year, because we saw the potential of this race and not having creeds in all the northwest area of the United States. So this year we're doing more some sort of like a festival, and we're focusing a lot on the experience from all the attendees and racers. So this year we're going to have two bands playing live. We're going to have a bike polo championship there so people can see them. We're going to have a beer garden right in the middle of the course, food cars. So I think people are going to have a lot of fun this year, racers, and this is going to be kind of like a huge party. That's what we want to bring to people.
Yeah, so I know that registration just opened, but I've been hearing rumors that like maybe Team Stanridge is going to be there, State Bicycles, like Addison and them are coming back. Have you heard any like confirmation on who's going to be racing yet?
There's rumors, and we've been announcing riders, and but it seems like Aventon team is most of the team is coming. Veronica Bullock is coming. Jeremy Santucci and some other riders. But we'll be announcing them when the time comes. I don't know.
Nice, that's awesome. I was just curious, I had to try.
Yeah.
But it seems like there is going to be a lot of people there, and it's going to be a really intense race. And from what I've been hearing from people on the podcast who were there in 2016, like everybody has nothing but like great things to say about the course and just the weekend in general. So I think that this year is going to be... I wasn't there obviously in 2016, but I'm going to be out there this year, so I'm really stoked to like hang out and meet everybody.
Cool.
So
Cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year, and we're moving from the last... in 2016 we had it on September. This year is going to be on July, and the weather is going to be great. So Portland is a great city to have fun. It's a ton of the city can offer a bunch of stuff like craft beer, coffee, nature around, just like a couple hours or an hour away. So like people that will be coming to Portland will have fun either before, after, and during the race. So I hope a bunch of people come.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the details. What are the dates of the race? And, and registration is open right now, so people should go register. So
The date is July 6th, 7th, and 8th. The main event is on July 8th. And on July 6th, we're going to have a track meet at the Velodrome and a pre-party. Then on July 7th, there's going to be the polo bike qualifications at the Alberta Park here in Portland, and a bike show in Western Bike Works created by Amy Danger. So a bunch of bikes. She's going to bring I don't know how many bikes to the show, and we're going to have golf sprints competition. People will be able to compete. I think it's going to be like $5 to enter the golf sprints, and whoever wins will take everything. And then on July 8th, we're going to have the main event, of course, the crit, the bands, the beer garden, and the polo. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's so rad that you guys are including bike polo in the weekend and the track. It's like all the fixed gear stuff, like all wrapped up into one weekend.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's like people will go there and, like attendees will go there and will be able to see music and the polo, and the racers will be able to also see the bands. And so, yeah, it's going to be like a huge party.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
If people come, just expect to have a really, really great time here. And if they're planning to come, try to get here a day or 2 days before, or leave a 1 or 2 days after, so you can, people can also go and see the city and the nature around, which is pretty awesome.
Nice. And where can people find more information?
On the website. The website will be posting all the information about the times, activities, and events, and everything.
Well, hey, thank you so much for doing this. I can't wait.
Thank you, Joshua, and I'll see you here.
All right, that does it for another episode of Save the Track Bike. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Shout out to our sponsor at Hexagon Cycles. That's hexagoncycles.com. Thanks to fixgearcrit.com. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you to all of you for listening. The music is Slag Girl by Vitamin Pets. Visit us on Instagram at Save the Track Bike, or go to savethetrackbike.com. And we'll see you next time.